And we promised that we would have a little bit of talk back, so this isn't going to go on very long, but I wanted to begin the talk back with a couple of questions for the audience, just to sort of get the ball rolling, and then we will, of course, welcome your questions or any comments that you might have. And hopefully you didn't bring any ripe tomatoes with you or any Halloween noise makers. In the first play, there was a celebration of the quarter centenary of a very famous event. Does anyone know what the event was? The 400th anniversary. What? The King James version of the Bible, which was published in 1611 and has an interesting history and is still popular 400 years later. And the accuracy, as I'm sure most of you know, some of the translations have been questioned for about 2 centuries. There are some translations that, of course, translations that are less tied into the ecclesiology of the English Church, for example. But I meant that to be a lead-in to my question for the audience. In virtual gates, what do you think is being satirized? I hope you did understand what it said. Is the author and the cast, are we satirizing people of faith, religion in general, or what? Do you think anyone at all? Yes?
Fundamentalist religion.
On what?
Fundamental.
Okay.
Religion.
All right. Yes?
Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy in general. Okay.
Naivete.
What's that? Naivete? True. Yes, absolutely. All of those things. And naivete in religion, particularly, and faith system.
Perception.
Yes, perception. Yes, exactly. Why do you think Melissa and Nikki get into heaven ahead of the televangelists?
Is there sincere?
Okay. Okay, because they're sincere. They're true to themselves. And any other ideas?
Damien.
Of what, sir?
Damien, the guy in the force,
Well, that's a good question. I don't have a definitive answer. Oh, interesting. Okay. Any questions that you have? Any questions at all?
I have a question. What was the meaning behind them having pre-registered?
Pre-registered?
Is that just a joke?
Well, it's sort of based on the idea that is in the Bible, that there is a book of life. And if your name is not in the book of life, that you wouldn't be admitted into heaven. So, of course, everything's computerized nowadays, and including the book of life, because, I mean, heaven couldn't possibly be that out of date, that there's 30 different books. They have a database now, and you're either on the database or not. So, of course, it's also obviously making fun of bureaucracy, and you could probably tell that I have a great fondness for computers in the digital age. I think that came across. We sort of savaged it a little excessively, but that was the idea. What do you think is the theme? I can tell you what my theme is. I mean, you've hinted at it. But I think it's really based on one phrase from the Beatitudes. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Because Nikki and Melissa, although they've been kind of naughty, to say the least, but they are pure in a certain sense, in a way that Breitenhard case is not. So anyway, and I recognize that the conversion at the end is a little forced, to say the least, but it's a short play. We can't have a weeping repentance.
Attorney
What's that?
Is this a final piece?
No, it started out, thank you for that question. It has been through a metamorphosis. When it was first done at Playmakers Theater, Hamden, in the Thornton Wilder Auditorium. I didn't even know there was a Thornton Wilder Auditorium, but there is in Hamden, because he lived in Hamden most of his life. And anyway, it was only 10 minutes long. And it was just Melissa and the Reverend the first time, and the Archangel Gabriella. And so I decided to spice it up a little bit. And can you imagine what it would be without Nicky Novelis? So he really livened it up and it got a little longer. And then I tagged on the hospital scene at the end. So, but I've been encouraged to try to write a first act. I don't know if there is a first act, but that's a good question. But it keeps growing.
Have you staged it already?
What's that?
Have you staged it already?
Have I
Staged it.
staged it? No. No, this is the third. We did it, it's actually the fourth time it's been done. The first time it was a shorter version. The second time we did it at Tokay Hall. And the third time we did it at a television station in Wallingford. And that was a tough audience. This is a tough audience, by the way, my God. Did they laugh at all? I expect people to be rolling on the floor, but then I remember I'm in Wilton, people do not roll on the floor. There are a few martinis maybe. Anyway, but we take what we can get. But it got no laughs at all, practically none at the, I found that interesting at the television station. Done very late at night, the audience was very, very young. And I find that, and from my years of teaching, I have found this to be true. It's hard to do a parody when people don't know what you're making fun of. And so they've never heard the King James Version. That they don't know what you're talking about, and some of the allusions, so it wasn't really fun to do. Except Nicky always gets that. But thank you for that question. The other thing, just very quickly, I thought about it like what it means to put both of these plays together, if anything. And so I would like to ask you, what, if anything, did the two plays have in common?
Hypocrisy.
Yes,
Hypocrisy.
hypocrisy, yes, I think so.
False values.
And what?
False values.
False values, the two together, yeah. Absolutely, that was my answer. Obviously, I thought about the question. Always have the answer right. There should be. It's really, I thought about that, and yes, it is about false values, dysfunctional values, dysfunctional values. And I thought about Cupcake and her family, and they really have a different kind of religion. They believe in the sacredness of material wealth and social status and one-upmanship. That's kind of secular religion that they adhere to. But it's just as dysfunctional as the hyper-evangelicalism, it seems to me, because it's a fanaticism. There's nothing wrong with religion. In my opinion, there is something wrong with this obsessive hyper-fanaticism. And the same with material wealth. But when it becomes to the exclusion of everything else. For example, do they care about whether Cupcake is in love with Guy? No, his name is Guy. They're all generic names, I'm sure you noticed that. And Guy is just a guy. And it doesn't matter what he's like. It doesn't matter if he treats her badly or if she really loves him. What matters is, oh my God, they're not going to live in affordable housing. Other things don't matter. And of course, these people are nothing like anybody we know, Oh, at least I got a giggle, thank God. But she is, and the other thing, what about the name Cupcake? What does that suggest to you? What's that? Somebody said something.
Short and not very bright.
Well, yes, it's part of it. Maybe all frosting, I don't know. But of course, she's dehumanized, isn't she, by the family? It's almost, it's sort of, almost like a kind of abuse. I mean, she's a status symbol.
They should have named her Buffy.
They should name her what?
Buffy.
Buffy, yeah. Well, it's a takeoff on Buffy, yeah. So, a croissant, maybe. But they really, where she lives matters, whether she's happy or not is quite secondary. And so I thought, anyway. Any questions for the cast?